ET has learned that the royals are considering hiring a diversity czar. The news, of course, comes after Meghan Markle and Prince Harry sit down with Oprah, in which they claimed a member of the family raised the issue of how dark their unborn child's skin would be. That unborn child, of course, was Archie. And Oprah did later clarify on behalf of Harry that the family member was neither the Queen nor Prince Philip. But according to our source, the palace is looking to possibly appoint a diversity chief in the coming weeks. And apparently, they're taking a listen and learn approach. The goal for the palace is to learn about how they might be able to improve their practices and include more representation. Our source adds, quote, "It is something that has to be considered, but it is too early for any firm plans to be announced. We are listening and learning to get this right." The source also notes that the royal family takes diversity very seriously and feels that more can always be done. But here is the question, Melissa. Do you feel like this appointment of this diversity chief, is it enough? Is it maybe a little too late? Or is it a step in the right direction?
I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. But I will say this, I don't think a diversity chief is going to change the hearts and minds of grown adults who may have racist views.
Mm-hmm,
After
mm-hmm.
watching Harry and Meghan's interview, it seemed like the issues were coming from specific individuals.
Right.
So while I feel like it won't fix that, it will give off the impression, or it will not even impression, it will show people of the UK,
Mm-hmm.
especially people of color who feel like the royal family does not represent any of their values. It will show them that they see them and they hear them, because these are people, that are paying taxes essentially for
Mm-hmm.
them to live in these palaces. And a lot of time these people of color don't see themselves reflected in the royal family. So
Right.
if it's not a PR move, I think it's the right step in the direction, because let's be
Right.
real here. There are organizations that have diversity programs for the sake of saying, oh, we care about diversity, but their actions don't necessarily prove that. So as long as it's not a PR move and it's genuine, I want to learn and get better, I'm here for it.
And as long as the country really, adds pressure to make sure that they put their money where their mouth is, because you're right, it's going to take a lot more than just optics to fix
Right.
this inherent issue which, by the way, let's be honest, has existed for such a long time. This is not brand new
Mhm.
information, but it's coming to light for the first time from somebody who was behind those palace walls, Meghan Markle and also Prince Harry. And I got to tell you, though, I was surprised. I was surprised to hear that they were even considering hiring a diversity chief to at least address some of these issues that Meghan brought up. And so I feel like while it might be a little, while it's definitely late and been a long time coming and necessary, at least they're showing that they are listening, because I felt like after that interview, we had reason to believe that they probably would have dismissed anything she was saying, especially considering some of
Yeah.
the British media and their reactions and responses to those claims that Meghan was making in that interview. So at least they're listening. And like I said, I don't want to celebrate them for doing the bare minimum, but as we've seen with
Right.
so many companies, so many studios, so many people around the world after George Floyd's death, there's a lot of people who are realizing that, okay, we are late and we need to be doing something
Mhm.
about diversity and inclusion. And so as long as that they keep that train moving forward, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say you were surprised, because a part of me was surprised that they didn't have one already.
Of
These
course.
are,
Right.
one of I mean, this is a leading institution in this world.
Mhm.
Why don't they have one? So I get
Absolutely.
where you're coming from, because it is the monarchy. They've been around for over 1,000 years. It's an older
Yes.
institution, but at the same time, that means that they should be at the forefront of necessary changes, but better late than
Amen.
never.
Exactly right. Meanwhile, as we continue to learn more about Harry and Meghan's life behind those palace walls, we're also learning just how much of the early events in Harry's life, even before Meghan, really affected him. The Duke of Sussex is putting his thoughts to paper in an emotional foreword for a new children's book intended to comfort young people who have lost a loved one to COVID-19. In it, he opens up about the death of his own mother, Princess Diana.
Yeah, this is so necessary. Harry reflects on losing his mom when he was 12 years old in the book, writing that
Hmm.
he didn't want to believe it or accept that his mother had died, adding that it, quote, left a huge hole inside of me. In this excerpt from the forward, Harry tells readers that he knows how they feel and assures them that over time the hole will be filled with love and support. He writes, quote, we all cope with loss in a different way, But when a parent goes to heaven, I was told their spirit, their love, and the memories of them do not. They're always with you and you can hold on to them forever. I find this to be true. You know, it's one thing for someone who has never lost a parent to tell you that things are going to
Mhm.
get better, right? And that things are going to be okay. But when it comes from someone like Harry, who has gone through this firsthand, on top of going through it in front of the world, I don't think we acknowledge that enough. You know, he was 12 years old, and on top of losing his mom, he had to grieve in front of the world. That takes a toll on you, you know, emotionally.
Absolutely.
So, for him to open up and be vulnerable with these children, I hope they hear him. And he made one point in the in his forward that I want to note. He said that I promise to you that you will feel better and stronger once you are ready to talk about how it makes you feel. And I think
Yeah.
that's really important because a lot of people hold in things. So giving being given that permission to say talking about it helps. I think
Mhm.
that's a key that, you know, a lot of people can take, and it will hopefully make them feel a little better.
That's such a good point, Melissa, because how often when you lose someone do you hear someone, especially if you lost them while you're young, to stay strong, to be strong? It's not that
Right.
easy, you know? And so,
Mhm.
it's one thing for anyone to lose a parent, and that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. But when you're as young as Harry, that
Right.
really not only takes a toll, but it changes you and it impacts you.
Yes.
And it's something that is felt for the rest of your life. I also lost my mother very young when I was 15 years old. So, and he has never shied away from discussing his late mom and how her death affected him. But for him to put into words for young people, because he can relate, I think that is
Mhm.
key. Because again, for a child to lose their parent that young, it is not easy. And you never know how it impacts the rest of their life, but it's something that is part of it's traumatic. It's a trauma that is just exists with you forever. And so I think him kind of putting his experience into words for those young readers is a beautiful, beautiful thing for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing, Denny. You know, I'm sorry for your loss. I
No,
personally didn't even know that
yeah.
about you.
And look, like, it's a very unique experience, but like I said, putting it into words that children will understand, that they don't have to wait until they're
Yeah.
adults and my age
Wow.
to read, is a
Wow.
good thing. So big up Prince Harry.